So I was going to begin this talk with a quick straw poll as to who comes to mind when I say the word genius, but then they kind of told me I only have 6 minutes to give this talk. And I took the liberty of doing it beforehand by obnoxiously asking people outside of here. And the answers that were given were most often Einstein, obviously, Turing, Edison, Hawking, and you might begin to see that they were all what you might call left-brain geniuses. Now, I know this is a very broad definition, but again, we only have 6 minutes. And no one mentioned any authors or artists or statesmen. Now, when I started down the path of this talk, I was going to talk about different types of intelligence and why they were each valid. But as I continued down the rabbit hole, what I noticed is there are people already talking about this, but yet they don't seem to be getting much traction. And what I began to ask is, why aren't they? And what I saw was reflected in our popular culture, or at least this is where I first saw it. And popular culture serves to both reflect what we're already thinking while influencing our future thinking. And what I saw was in TV specifically. And to give a specific example, when I was younger, there was a show on Disney Channel called Smart Guy. It's about a 10-year-old who was in high school who was a genius. And the way they told you he was a genius, I remember this line from an advertisement very specifically, where this girl in an overly peppy Disney Channel commercial voice said, he has an IQ of like a zillion. And that's where I saw it, was where we get anchored in our definition of intelligence is in this idea of IQ. But IQ only measures two things: the quantity of data that your mind processes and the speed at which it processes them. Now, I want to ask you, would you go to a dealership and look at a car solely based on its horsepower and its torque? No, because there's also top speed, acceleration, comfort, and a dozen other things that are equally important, or to you, maybe more important. But yet we seem to be comfortable basing our definition of intelligence on these two things. Fast forward to today, one of my favorite shows is a show called Arrow. Some of you may know it, and the protagonist is named Oliver Queen. And while no one would argue he's anything other than smart, he's not the genius character of the show. The genius characters of the show are Felicity Smoke and Ray Palmer. And how do you know they're geniuses? Because they're both left-brain geniuses, and they're both mentioned as having extremely high IQ. And that's what our archetype of genius is. And as I continued to see this, something I began to think about was how we seem to have so put up on a pedestal men like Einstein that there doesn't seem to be room next to them in what we think for William the Conqueror or William Shakespeare, men who were equally smart, but just in different ways. Now, and as a result, as we've done that, we haven't nurtured and encouraged other forms of genius to flourish. Now, there has been a proposed alternative definition, and many of us have heard someone say that the most successful people in life are street smart. But let me ask you, how much of Bill Gates' success is related to his ability to navigate the streets? It's not. His success comes from an entirely different form of intelligence that we have yet to define. But street smart seems to be an easy way to do it. And it's a way that sort of band-aids a solution so that we can have something else while still narrowly defining something as important as intelligence, but using it in a blanket terms and using it for a broader category of people. Now, this is the part where you're probably expecting me to give you an alternative definition of intelligence and tell you how we should do things. But the truth is that when we talk about intelligence, it's such a broad and big subject that I don't think anyone's actually qualified to give a definition of any definitive nature, and especially not me. But rather, what I want to leave you with is that when we move forward, we need to think about the types of intelligence we want to nurture and we want to encourage in this world. And I want to leave you with the idea that if we want to redefine intelligence, we can't just band-aid a solution. We need to start by redefining intelligence.